through some of the questions that we get. And this one is actually from my mother. So we got to no swearing, okay, today. I know how you are. So my mom asked me, how have friends and family reacted to you changing from being an atheist to a Christian? Did they change? Did they change around you? Did they behave differently around you? What's their opinion of you converting?
Does she already know all the answers for you?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. I'll keep it short then. I think, well, a lot of my friends don't know yet. Um, which is,
Is that because it's something you haven't brought up, you don't feel like it's important, or because you're worried there may be a negative reaction?
I'm definitely worried about a negative reaction. I also don't want to seem like a fanatic by just being like, "Hey, guess what?" So kind of
Guess what you
waiting for
did
it
in
to
my
come
life?
out naturally.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, it might actually work as a humorous thing. Anyway, um, so there's that, and then there's also yeah, a lot of my friends kind of forget a lot of this time. Like I've told my closest friends, and one of them still forgets sometimes. Like, oh right, yeah, okay, it's Sunday, you gotta go to church. Okay, weirdo. But um,
Is that like every week? I mean, like you go to church every week? That kind of thing?
yeah, my parents forget sometimes. It's wild. Um,
So how did your parents react? What was their, what's there been, did they have anything to say on it? Did they, or is it just like, oh, okay.
yeah, they're just like, oh, okay, like I guess yeah, it was never really a big topic in our family to begin with. And then my dad knew that I was an atheist, but he didn't like it. He was like, yeah, I like that better than the atheist thing.
So it's like a step up. That's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, I don't think any of my friends or family would see it as a step up. I think if with me, I think for the most part, family at least it seems haven't had anything really to say. I think they have a very live and let live attitude. So I think they're kind of like, look, if it's making you happy, if you're feeling good for it, then go for it. Friends have been a little different. Most of them, again, have been kind of just like tolerant of it. I don't think they feel like it's a real thing. One of I thought it was interesting was I wasn't expecting this. I think I'd asked about the question, and one of my friends had said, "Oh well, I think it's just a kind of like a cultural product of you being in America. Like
Mm-hmm.
you go from England where we're kind of mostly godless, and you go to America where people are godly, and sure you'll get Christ." And they were like, "I'm pretty sure if you'd have emigrated to the Middle East instead, we'd be talking to you as a Muslim instead," which I thought was interesting because it wasn't a view I held as an atheist that religion was predominantly cultural and bent down by where you live. So it was kind of surprising to hear that from somebody else. Um, but the only other kind of like negative reaction I got was introducing myself to like work colleagues. I was talking about it, and I knew I worked with a guy who was a Catholic, a devout Catholic, and I was talking to him, and then like another person kind of joined in the conversation and was like, "Oh, you're Christian now?" And I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "But I thought you were smart." Which
Yeah.
I thought was like, and I don't think they meant it in like a really mean way like that. I think they just kind of meant it in a like, oh, you're kind of like a sciencey technology kind of person, rather than like, wow, you're not a drooling idiot. But that again kind of just was a little shocking and surprising to me. But yeah, I'm a lot more open. I mean, dude, my Facebook is just littered with Jesus Christ. It's not quite in a like have you repented today kind of way, but just
Mm-hmm.
sharing my interest in doing that kind of stuff. I'm a lot more open. I haven't really been worried about a negative backlash because um, there are a couple of my friends that are like very anti religion. And I think they're grown up enough and I'm grown up enough to be able to separate the fact that we're friends and they like me and that they really don't like religion and I'm involved with the religion. You know what I mean? Like they don't like that aspect of my life. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't like me. Um, so, but otherwise, no. The next question she asked was, how have your opinions of non-Christians changed? Are you more or less tolerant of them?
Um, I think it's about the same. Like like you know that feeling you get when you like you meet someone and you find out it's like their beliefs and there's like, oh, they're one of me. Oh, like, oh, they're not. And I had that as an atheist, and I was like talking to smart guys, and I'm like, he's an atheist. Like you know, my friend invited me to the book club, Socratic book club, and I was like, oh yeah, he's probably an atheist. Like, be on the same side. It turns out he's not. I'm like, so not quite like that, but um, the other thing is, I had another
And now it's gone. Just like
one.
that. Um, I know for me, I think I think she's asking just generally like non-believers, and I don't think my view of non-believers has changed. It's certainly not this idea of I think as an atheist you have this idea that Christians think everybody else is scum. Not necessarily because I mean like they're bad, but I just mean like this idea of total depravity where everybody is a helpless sinner without God. Like I don't. I believe that, but it's not like I believe that everybody is just junk without God kind of thing. And I think that's what she's talking about is like non-Christians. Do you feel like everybody's just struggling out there without God? I will say my opinion of atheists has changed dramatically, and definitely not for the better. I do that that same kind of reaction you're talking about, like as an atheist, when somebody was talking to you and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm a Christian," and you'd have all of this like you could shortcut all these conversations because you know how they're going to end, you know how they're going to react in certain situations. They're very kind of like group think, very hive mind. This is what you kind of think of Christians. I'm sorry to say that I kind of have that now of atheists. Now it's not to say every atheist is the same, but it does make me kind of like smile in my head when I talk to people who are atheists, and a lot of those kind of like a lot of like the arguments that I used to use that I in being a Christian found not to be true, where they kind of repeat those, and you're just like, oh man, ouch. So also that's changed because I don't feel like it's this pinnacle of intellect anymore because it's not. Am I more tolerant or less tolerant? I am definitely more tolerant, and not just. I think that's part of why Christianity has been so important to me. Is I definitely feel like more of a peacemaker now than I used to as an atheist. I talk a lot about how in my old life I would have a circle of friends, and there were certain topics or certain things that you would say, and you were off the island. Like if trying to think of something, uh, I can't think of something to say that we. But the idea, like if you said, "Oh, my favorite color is red," like boom, you're gone, you're off the island. If you were like, "Oh, I do this," and you get this great circle of friends, and then it gets ever smaller, and eventually, nearly everybody's going to say something dumb, and they keep saying these dumb things, and the circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now I don't have that view. I have a big circle, and it is filled with people that I do not agree with. I had a particular conversation with a friend that was about homosexuals, and they were talking about how people have this really weird view and like, oh, they're this or they're trying to manipulate your children or whatever, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I know a couple of people that really strongly believe that, and they're like, well, hang on, if you know people that are like that and that's a dumb thing for them to believe, why are you friends with them? And it's like, well, if you're only friends with the people that agree with you and believe the same way as you, like, how do you grow? How do you encounter different views? How do you challenge what you believe? How do you defend what you believe if everybody just all has this homogenous, like, oh, everything's great, we all believe, like, there's no challenge to that. That's definitely changed in me, so that I am much more tolerant of different views, which seems counter to being religious. The idea is you're religious and you stick to only those people who believe what you believe. So I'm definitely much more open to other beliefs. I like engaging with people with other beliefs, and I'm not quite as petty and small-minded, I would say, as I used to be. I hope. That's how I view it. How other people view it, they may not agree, but that's how I see it.
Well, I guess I forgot. I remember the thing I forgot. Is that like I have these like knee-jerk points now, um, like logical fallacies that I would repeat or things like that. That now I'm like really quick to pick up on, and I want to be like, but then I don't. That's another one of those things.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that.
Oh, like so. For example, I'm trying to think of one. Oh, like maybe like the idea of that for example, um, like politics and religion should be separate, and that like in in common parlance, that kind of means secular humanism should be the state
Right.
religion, kind of, without kind of recognizing that that is a set of values that isn't really bundled into the Constitution, and kind
Okay.
of, yeah, picking up on that and being like, well,
But
um,
then, but then, so you would say that like you're less aggressive in that sense then?
I
So
am, I am, I am like, so the particular mistakes that I made are the ones that I'm more eager to pick up on and like more aggressive about, and then I have to like rein myself in and be like, no, no, no.
no, yes. And I find I'm the same. There's a couple of push buttons where like somebody who is not a Christian would say them, and you're like no, and you want to jump in on top of them, and you got to be careful and mindful that no, it is be a little more understanding, a little more tolerant. Remember that you made those same mistakes. You had that same kind of ignorance, shall we say? Okay. So the next thing is how has dealing with other people changed in work or home?
In work, it's definitely changed. Um, yeah, because now I have there's this like um, before I was not. This is not something it's not something you have to talk about if you're an atheist. But like it's not really an emotional thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But you feel that so I guess with you in particular, you have an atheist girlfriend. You both started out as atheists. Obviously, you changed them, but do you feel like that your religion has better equipped you in dealing with well, I say gosh, when I say dealing with like that, it makes it sound like so. But has your relationship changed because of that with your girlfriend?
mhm,
You noticed anything that's different?
yeah.
Yeah,
um,
the way that the way that you treat it, the way you deal with her has changed. I
or
guess
like like just some specific things. Like
like
I find it
big thing. I mean, like generally, I know that like for me, some of the things that have changed with me at home has been as an atheist husband, I didn't very much take the lead. I like kind of like just my wife deal with it, my wife deal with it. I have since now kind of more understood the need for taking a leadership in the home, and often as a Christian, that's kind of seen as oh, you have to make sure your wife is just making the sandwiches and staying in the kitchen kind of thing.
mhm,
It's not that. It's more just being a kind of a rock or taking some leadership and taking some of the load off them and being there for them. Um, not just in terms of like, being the breadwinner or paying the bills or things like that, but even spiritually, like in leading prayer and encouraging somebody else to lead prayer and helping them grow spiritually. And it doesn't necessarily have to be grow spiritually with Christ, but just having that sense of awareness, having that spirituality with others, being respectful, being mindful, those kind of things, taking the lead there, and how important that's been. And it's a huge change in our household how stepping forward and taking that step has done that. You know.
yeah.
You're like, yeah, great, yeah, no, yeah. There's a whole ton of responsibility that come to you as a head of the household, man.
Yeah. That's actually not something I thought about too much. But then again, I guess like we're not married.
Well,
So,
no, yeah, but one of the things that got me was, my wife would struggle with a lot of things of knowing how I was in terms of A, I didn't respect your religion, and B, being very more like you dealt with it on your own. It's not really like a something we work together on. It's like you have your problems, you have your things that you deal with. I have mine. if it's something to do with that household, right, fine, then we need to work together, but otherwise we don't. You know, that changed. It doesn't matter now. We are a partnership. We're in this together. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a Christian only view, but it's just something that changed by me becoming a Christian that I became more observant of and realized needed to change.
Yeah. Like, yeah, one other thing that maybe you experienced this, like going through that same. I guess you kind of went through this in reverse, but like now, like I have this whole other set of vocabulary and like ideas and stuff that it's really good. Like if I want to talk to her about it, I have to be like, so like there's this passage in the Bible and these are the words I'm using and this is the idea and it's like I like the whole set of experiences and like language and emotions that it's hard to communicate about.
No, yeah, I agree. I think you're. There's still aspects that I do that with my wife because I'm a book reader. I like reading about the stuff. I love digging into theology, and a lot of times I'll talk the stuff, and I can see that my wife's just like, huh? You have to kind of break it down a little. But again, yeah, the conversations with people who are not Christian are very difficult because you get this whole new vocabulary of stuff that makes no sense. That it just was. Even something simple like Jesus loves you is really difficult as a concept to convey to somebody who's not a Christian because it's like, well, okay, this guy is, he got nailed to a bit of wood, he died, all right, he was supposedly God, like, but I don't understand what any of that means or how that impacts my life or what it means. Like, just saying Jesus loves you, like, I don't get it. Why is that important to my life? How does that help me pay the bills? How does that help me, deal with a family member who has cancer? All those kind of things, like. It's difficult, I think it's definitely something we as Christians need to get better at, is being able to convey our religion in non-religious language, because I think we've been, that's the problem that we see as atheists, as it was coming out as atheists, is we have no means to relate, and so it becomes a lot easier to mock it and to ridicule because there is no understanding.
Yeah, I imagine that's where a lot of yeah, like internet memes where you like excerpt of something. This line looks stupid.
Yeah, and it's only through having that understanding we do it. But hopefully, this is part of that, right? Having that conversation, trying to do stuff, trying to kind of get our feelings out there, trying to answer these questions that other people have. Hopefully, people feel empowered to ask us questions and come to us, and we can kind of help build that bridge. Cool. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you sticking around and doing these questions, and we'll do it again. If you're watching this and you have questions, feel free to send them in to us. Feel free to add your own comments to the discussion below, and subscribe to the channel, and you'll get further updates when we do other questions. All right, take care. Bye.
Woo-hoo.